And thank those of you who have shown a lot of interest in my work here and the work of the legislature. Today, we're very sorry that I am becoming a victim of the thing we are fighting to correct, to modernize the legislature, modernize the Senate. And the key area of modernization is in communication and keeping our work recorded properly. So in our session today, the concentration today was the University of Liberia. The idea of amending the act, the charter of the University of Liberia, something that has been ongoing, an effort to make that transformation from the time that Dr. Emmett Dennis was president on to Dr. Weeks and now to Dr. Saulo Nelson. The idea is to make the changes in the university in such a manner that the university would truly reflect the purpose for which it was created. And so, as a member, a ranking member of the Committee on Education, we've been working on that amendment. And I can tell you, we've done a wonderful job at it. Though my chair is not in country, the Chairman Moy is out of the country, I was asked to lead the process in bringing this thing to the closure. Debates have been held, but we're just at a point of trying to make a vote. So I've tried to pick key issues in the act, the areas to be amended. And I have to say, the more I reflected on it, I got quite involved, emotionally involved in it, passionately involved in it. One of the areas was about the board, the constitution of the board, that we must make sure that the board of the university is not predominantly men, that there will be reflected gender equity. That's one of the changes that is in the that we find in the current act, what they call it, the charter that we're trying to make. There was also how to appoint the president of the university. We have had experiences when, starting with Dr. Mary Antoinette Brown Sherman, that woman who became the first woman president on the continent of Africa, outstanding academician and a wonderful person. When you heard what happened at the university and the soldiers entered the campus in 1984 under Sergeant Doe, the first thing they did was to announce the removal of Mary Antoinette Brown Sherman. I would say one of the best academic and leaders that this country has had. They removed her. And that was the first time we began to hear lists of people to become students of the university coming from the executive mansion. That's how the university was abused. We've heard recently another woman president was at work, coming to work, I'm told, in the vehicle coming to work when it was announced how she was removed from the university. So even those who became beneficiaries of that type of removal, they thought that we had to do something to protect the university. And that came upon us. You also need to remember, or maybe those of you know already, that I am an alumnus of the University of Liberia. I graduated from the university. I became president of the University of Liberia Students Union. I came from there to become president and more or less the founder of the Liberian National Students Union. And one of our things was about the autonomy of the university. So it was passionately upon me to do whatever I could do for us to have a charter that we all would be proud of. So it was that which we were doing when I was interrupted by a colleague. When he interrupted, my train of thought, I broke, as I normally do. Then I said, you know, our colleague from Bommy Hills, where the hills are empty, is used to interrupting people. But I will continue my train of thought. I spoke about Bommy Hills, as we all say, Bommy Hills or Bommy Holes. The hills are now holes. So when you refer to representing Bommy Hills, it's in fact representing holes. So I'm speaking figuratively. And it was very clear. Colleagues who obviously did not hear what I said, one jump up and say that I was insulting a colleague. By this time, this colleague retorted. He said, I was frustrated because my wife, who is the Secretary General of the Mano River Union, had been removed. So now, unfortunately, you know, I don't know how that fit into the discussion that we're having, you know, because, you know, I have a very professional wife who has worked for the United Nations, worked everywhere, and he knows very well. I've been married to her for almost 40 years. You know, that's how serious we are. So you bring a matter like her removal. She's not, if she wanted to, she would have gone after it. She did not. Oh no. She has worked everywhere. And her qualification experience will get her anyway. But I did not mind that. I said nothing about that. And the discussion continued. So this other colleague who said he heard something which was not true, Senator Tiege, he then said that I should apologize. I did not say it, and I could not apologize. Now, many of you also know the history of our country. I went to jail several times. I was whipped, beaten for things that I did not do. Whether as a student, as a social society leader, or just for the things that I stood for, I was almost killed. I have the scars on my body. I'm very careful when I speak. I'm not a reckless speaker, you know, so I could not apologize on something that I did not say and do. So when this happened and all the uproar, I decided to go to the best witnesses that were around. You journalists, you who carried the gadgetry that can record, to play what you heard. And the evidence that I'm getting from everybody is that I did not say that. I spoke about Bommy Hills. I said nothing about anybody's head. And I can't help. If there are some colleagues of ours who are used to calling head, hey, that you hey. So when they hear hills, they think you're talking about the way they call head, H-E-A-D, is it that you hey. Maybe that's what brought the problem for many people. The difference between head and hill. There are words, you say hill, H-I-L-L, or maybe H-A-I-L, the one we sing in our national anthem. But when some people sing even the national anthem, they can say, oh, hey, la vida, oh, hey. So they don't have a distinction. But the colleague who brought this thing up, he's one of the most eloquent speakers here. So the only thing I can say, his ears failed him, or he was up for mischief. Those are the only two things I can say, because he's not one of those who don't know how to speak, who can enunciate. So for those of you who show so much interest and have been showing a great deal of respect for my work here, I want to thank you for following and wanting this clarification. But I think the best way to clarify it is to play your own tape, what you recorded. The head of our department on communication at the legislature is here, Mr. Johnson, and I would like to break here and maybe allow him to say what he heard on his tape, and then we can I don't know whether I would take a question, but I need to go back to the house. But let me hear what Mr. Johnson heard.
Thank you, Senator. Actually, I must have far away, but my colleagues who recorded a statement, when I put on the speaker, what I heard that he said that those whose hills have been empty have a way of departing. That's what he said.
I was speaking about Bummy Hills.
The Bummy is about Bummy Hills. Those whose hills have been empty have the way of departing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to ask any other question?
Yeah, I would just like to ask
Maybe one or two questions.
Thank you. My name is Zach Sherman from KMTV. The words are clear in terms of pronunciation, but it could be seen from a more figurative perspective. I don't know whether you care to talk about that. You may say something, but looking from a more figurative perspective, it could be like you're saying something else. So,
I was simply talking about colleagues. You can say colleague from Lofa, colleague from this, and this colleague comes from Bummy Hills. The county is called Bummy County, right? Okay. So when I speak about Bummy, I was speaking in that term.
Yes. My name is Blamoto from Bama FM. Has there been any disagreement between you and Senator Snow in the past? And I resorted to this exchange or exchanges?
Well, I really don't know. You know, I don't want to speculate what made him to, but many people are aware, it's not a secret here that, you know, I chaired a committee that was responsible for the building of these two annexes and to modernize this old building. And when people were elected, people came, they were taking offices. But as a modest man, and everybody was very surprised, I did not take any of the offices. I should have been the first to. In fact, one other colleague almost got into a fight with Nyobli, you know, about, at that time, I had an office in that building. One of the, prestigious offices. But because this colleague got into a fight with a woman, I just said, oh no, you don't need that. Please take my office. So I stayed down in an office that was the smallest office in the place where the procurement people are now. The next office to it, yeah. It was just one little room, and nobody could believe it. At that time, I was the head of the modernization committee. I was all the time acting as chair of foreign affairs committee and many other committees, youth and sports and all of that. You know, so Then we started to repair this place, the other part. So the pro tem and Nyambli, who was responsible for this, our part of the committee to distribute offices. Everyone said that as chair of the modernization committee and the work we do, which is a joint committee from the House of Representatives and here, that I would take over this office that was used by the president pro tempore. So that's all we knew. We're trying to repair this place, and one day my staff said, oh, you know, Snow has gone in the office there and say he has the office. We call Nyambli. Who authorized Snow to use the office now that the pro tem say, as a compromise, I will use, that we agree, and because of the nature of my committee. So the people came and continued their work here from my office. That became the biggest headache for Mr. Snow. He had just been elected though. He met me here. So I don't know. In fact, it's totally irrelevant that, I mean, he will react to things like that because that's how come when you heard, I'm more senior, more experienced on international relations. I came from the foreign ministry. I was ambassador to the United Nations. I was to the European Union, being appointed, doing that. You know, there are not too many people who, I mean, before I came to this legislature, I had been representing Nigerian African youth and students around the world. I've been to over 100 countries. So it was never a question about who was the most senior trained person for foreign relations. But they organized at that time, and then what they did, I had no role, so that I won't be a member of the leadership committee. So he is just in that fight on these things. And to tell you the truth, they mean nothing to me. Because what I stand for, I think, is more durable than these material stuff. You know, some of the most, who we're calling the most powerful, now we know what their power is. My experience doesn't tell me that I should waste my time on things like that. So I don't know what is driving him. So let's start.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you all for coming. All right, I will have to continue my work over there. Mr.